Hello everyone, I'm Aaron from DataStax, and welcome to this part 4 of evaluating your Cassandra cluster for migration to Astra DB. And today we're going to talk about understanding a crucial part of the migration process, and that is the ZDM proxy, or Zero Downtime Migration Proxy. The Zero Downtime Migration provides a simple and reliable way for you to manage applications from any CQL-based cluster. We stand up ZDM Proxy, and it talks to both your cluster and Astra DB, and really helps smooth over that migration process. And today, we're going to focus on that and try to get you all some more information about the ZDM Proxy, and maybe even show you how to use it. All right, let's go. So our agenda for this video is to first focus on zero downtime migration, talk about what the proxy is. We'll move on to some of the requirements to use the proxy. Then we'll actually talk a little bit about the implementation and try to explain how the ZDM proxy works. Finally, I'll show you how to find the ZDM Playground, and then I'll demo some of this a little bit, and hopefully I can show you some really cool things here. As has been the theme throughout this multi-part video series, we are using our legacy killer video application to demonstrate how to migrate from an existing legacy Cassandra-based application into Astra DB. So we're going to be using killer videos, keyspace, and tables kind of as a bit of a staging ground for our migration from, Cassandra into Astra DB. So just what is the Zero Downtime Migration Proxy? Well, essentially, the ZDM Proxy is this software package that we've built that connects your cluster with Astra DB and gets them to operate kind of as a single cluster. The idea is that it processes writes into both databases, but serves reads only from the origin. And the idea here is that you can have this in place and catch up on your writes as they're going along so you don't miss any, but at the same time also do like a data export and import into Astra DB. And this way you get both your new data and your old data together before stepping forward and actually pointing the application at Astra DB. So there are a few phases to a zero downtime migration. First of all, the ZDM proxy gets deployed with multiple clients. And that's kind of the idea, is that the ZDM proxy also kind of works in a little bit of a clustered fashion. And the number of clients that get deployed is relative to the workload that your cluster is processing. Once we have the ZDM proxy clients in place, we will then migrate and validate the data. Kind of an optional step that some of our customers choose to do is enabling dual async read. And that way you can go ahead and read from both the Astra DB database as well as the origin Cassandra database. And it's really just a way to kind of help ensure that everything's working as expected. The next phase is to go ahead and change the read routing to the target, not the origin. Again, this is more of a step around validation and just making sure that we're getting the right data that we expect to get for the application out of the database. And finally, step 5, once the migration is complete, we've done all of our validation, we're going to go ahead and point the application directly at the target database, which, for our example, will be Astra DB. And then we can take down the ZDM proxies and we should be all done. So this is kind of what it looks like from a diagram perspective. So we have the origin Cassandra cluster on one side. We have the target Astra DB cluster or database on the other side. And we have the application in the middle. Now, normally the application is set up to talk directly to the Cassandra cluster. But what we're going to do here with ZDM Proxy is stand up a few of those ZDM Proxy clients. That way it intercepts all of the application traffic. So read traffic is routed to the original Cassandra cluster while we're still in the migration phase, but write traffic actually goes in both directions. That way, the new Astra DB database, the target, is actually filling up with your new data from the application as it's coming in. And of course, while this is happening, we'll go ahead and run a Cassandra data migrator or DS bulk process or multiple processes to move the data from the origin Cassandra cluster and into the target Astra DB database. So ZDM Proxy does have some requirements. Well, first of all, you need to be running on Cassandra version 2.1.6 or on DSE version 4.7.1. Thrift is not supported. So for those of you still on Thrift, you will want to first upgrade to a Cassandra version that does support CQL, and then also upgrade your application to use CQL, which I know is no small feat. So if you find yourself in this situation, please reach out to us and we'll be sure to help you out, provide a best path for you. All right, for the implementation, kind of the main thing is the zero downtime migration proxy config. And the ZDM proxy config has like information about the both the origin and the target databases for things like credentials, endpoints. This is also where you'd put your Astra token, specify the location of your Astra Secure Connect bundle. So yeah, this ZDM proxy config is really kind of where everything gets defined and laid out for the proxy clients. Then what we do is we stand up each of the individual ZDM proxy instances. And once we've done that, we can go ahead and point the application to the ZDM proxy. And the idea here is that you'll have multiple instances, they'll have multiple IPs, and you would just take those IPs and fill them out in your application like any other Cassandra contact point list. And it would go ahead and find those proxies, and then of course it's going to be able to get to both the Cassandra database and the target Astra database. So we do have a way for you to test and play with all this and just kind of get a handle on it. And it's called the ZDM Playground. And essentially what it is it's a Katacoda lab that we've put together that kind of walks through all the steps of a zero downtime migration. So if you were to head on out to datastax.com/dev/ZDM, you would see that we have this page here that kind of walks you through the zero downtime migration. You can see another diagram of the process, again, kind of showing, how it behaves and how it gets set up. You can see the phases that I mentioned as well. But with skill building here, you can actually click on this Start Hands-on Lab button, and it should take you here. And essentially what this is a self-contained environment where you can go ahead and follow the steps in this lab and stand up an application, stand up a Cassandra database right over here, and have an application that, does some simple writes and reads with a Cassandra cluster. And then what you do is you go ahead and introduce your new Astra database. So here's where you can go ahead and provide like all of the details for your Astra database. And you can actually stand this up and run this and see the migration work before your eyes. I do kind of recommend that everybody checks this out just to get a feel for how this migration process is going to work. All right, now let's go ahead and demo this thing out. What I'm actually going to do is go to our GitHub repo out here. It's just, github.com/datastax/ZDM-proxy. Now, you'll notice that there are two of these. First of all, there's the ZDM Proxy Automation repository. This is the one the hands-on lab in the workshop uses. Now, you can go ahead and use this one, but full disclosure, this one is based on Ansible. I don't have Ansible running on my own machine, so I chose to go the more manual route. And that is just the regular ZDM proxy repository here. And, you can see it's got some instructions on how to make it work, on how to define out your ZDM config. You can even, export and run things as environment variables if you want to. The idea here is that you'll, again, kind of copy the GitHub URL, and then you can do a git clone to pull it down to your system. and then you can build it and get this to work. Here's my ZDM proxy in my local machine that I've pulled down from the repository. And before moving forward, you will want to build this in Go. But the idea is it's going to build this proxy executable right here. And that is the main executable that you're going to use to run ZDM Proxy. Now, before we can create our ZDM config file, we need to have a look at our Astra database. So I'm going to go here, and I have a special database I've created called ZDM Proxy Demo. And I already have the killer video key space and schema all created inside here. So these are actually CQL tables that are inside the killer video key space out in my ZDM Proxy Demo database. So what I'm going to do is click on the connection details, and I'm going to say generate token. Then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy that information off and store it. And I'm also going to need my Secure Connect bundle. So for that to work, let's use the Astra CLI. So I actually have the Astra CLI installed, and that has a method that lets you pull down the Secure Connect bundle, and that's what I'm going to use. So let's start by saying Astra DB list. And that should get me back a list of my Astra databases. And you can see I have the ZDM Proxy Demo right there. So now let's say Astra DB download SCB, and we want to do that for ZDM Proxy Demo. So now I'll run that and bundle downloaded. Now I can go ahead and say ls all SCB, and bam, there it is. What I'm going to do next is create a new config file. So I'm just going to say touch, and we'll say ZDM config YML for YAML, just like that. Let's go ahead and do a, we'll just do this in VI because why not? So I'll say ZDM config YAML, just like that. Let's do an insert, get into insert mode, and let's say origin. We're going to tie this to the Cassandra cluster that's running on my local. So let's just say 127.0.0.1. Then you can say origin username, and that's just going to be, we'll use the Cassandra user, so we can say origin password, Cassandra, origin port. We don't really need this, but for those of you who don't know, the base port is 9042. All right, so that's enough about our origin cluster. Now let's go and say target username. The target username is just going to be literal word token, and that should be the same for everyone. Next, we're going to say target password, and there I'm going to paste in the token that I just generated. All right, there's my token, Astra DB ID, so target Astra DB ID. There we go. Then I also want my token one more time, but this time I want to explicitly name it. So we can say target Astra DB token, and let's go ahead and put that there as well. And then last, I need my target Secure Connect bundle path, and that's going to be there. Okay, so now I should have everything that I need for the proxy to connect. So let's escape to get out of insert mode, and then we'll do a right quit. All right, and we should be ready to go here. Okay, so now we do an ls all. Yeah, you can see I have multiple ZDM configs out here. So let's just go ahead and do a proxy. We're going to say dash config equals, and then we'll just say /, and make sure we pass that ZDM config.yml, just like that. All right, with this, it should work. Looks like we have a bad line in that file. real quick, let's just do a vi ZDM config YML. We'll go to line 7. Oh, yeah, I don't know how that got in there twice. Let's just wipe that line, right quit, and let's give this another shot. Hey, there we go. As you can see, it's broadcasting out on localhost on port 14,002. Now again, normally most CQL applications use port 9042, so on the application side, you will need to adjust your port to reflect that. Note that you can also configure that as well. All right, but the proxy's up, proxy's running. So if I have a look at Cassandra here, you can see I'm on my local cluster. I can go ahead and we can do a use killer video, and we can describe the tables, and then you can say select star from maybe YouTube videos. Okay, yep, we definitely have rows out there for sure. All right, now if we jump over to Astra DB, and we can go to the Data Explorer and say CQL console, and I can say use killer video, and then same thing, let's go select star from YouTube videos. And there's nothing there. Let's do the same thing with just the regular videos table. Okay, yep, there we go. And what about regular videos here? Let's just do that. Okay, good. That one's empty too. Okay, so we have the proxy running. We can do reads in both, and we can see that the data is not in sync, which is right, which is what we want at this point. So now what I'm going to do, all right, let's go to document workspace, Python scripts. All right, everybody should have a default, Python scripts directory that has a whole bunch of stuff in it. So what I'm going to do is have a look at my test proxy script. And you can see just, yeah, I have some hard-coded values in here, like my token that, I just generated before. What we're going to do is just going to select from that, killer video, YouTube videos table. And at the end here, it's going to go ahead and insert some data. And the idea is it's going to put a new video in here that hopefully we can find in both tables. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. Hey, there we go. All right. So we actually did get a read to come back here. So of course, if you remember, proxy always routes the reads to the original database. So that's actually pulling, the top limit 1, select star from key space table limit 1. So it's pulling from YouTube videos, limit 1, and you can see that it's pulling that back. Now, it went ahead and ran our insert as well. So now let's go ahead and have a look at select star from videos. Well, and you'll see we have 57 rows. So we actually did get a new one put in here. And if proxy worked the way that it should have, our videos table out in Astra DB should now have a row in it. And it does. There you go. So as you can see, that new video that I put in for the first migration video in this series is actually now out there in our videos table in Astra. So you can see that the write was routed to both databases, but reads are being only pulled from one. So let's go ahead and test this out one more time. So that I have that video ID, I can say where video ID equals, and then paste that in, and there's our new row that we just put in there. Yep, just a few minutes ago. Look at that. Okay, so we have the ZDM proxy up and running, and it is routing reads to our original Cassandra cluster and routing writes to both Cassandra and Astra DB. All right, again, thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned some valuable information in this video. We did spend time going over the ZDM proxy and showed some ways to, configure it and to test it out. And then I actually walked through a small demo of ZDM Proxy with you. Hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please reach out and leave any comments below. Want more information on modernizing your self-managed Cassandra deployments? head on out to datastax.com/modernize-apache-cassandra-workloads, and you'll find all the information you need on keeping your self-managed Cassandra cluster updated and in top running form. Thank you, and have a great day.